Your wallet has no power over you. It never did. Not yesterday. Not today. Not at any moment of your life. The power was never in the leather, the metal, or the numbers it contains. The power was always in you. But somewhere along the way, you gave that power away. You bowed before a shadow. You surrendered your peace, your confidence, your sense of worth to a number. And in doing so, you allowed the servant to become the master. You look into your wallet and you feel fear. You look into it and you feel hope rise and fall with what you see. You allow its condition to dictate your mood, your posture, your belief about yourself and your future. This is the great inversion. This is the great mistake. You were never meant to be ruled by what you created. You were meant to rule it. Money was never designed to command the human spirit. It was designed to serve it. And yet, you have reversed the roles. You rise in confidence when it rises. You fall in despair when it falls. You wait upon it as though it were a god that decides your fate. You have forgotten who the Creator is. Let me tell you something that may unsettle you at first. Your wallet is not alive in the way a man is alive, but it is alive in a deeper sense. It is alive because it is formed from consciousness. It is animated by awareness. It is a reflection of your inner state made visible. And what is born of consciousness cannot act independently of consciousness. It must obey it. You have been trained to believe that money is the cause and that you are the effect, that wealth produces confidence, that abundance produces peace, that security produces freedom. But I tell you this with absolute certainty, you have it entirely backward. Your consciousness is the cause. Your wallet is the effect. And when you reverse this relationship back to its rightful order, the entire structure of your financial life begins to dissolve and reassemble in a new form. This is not positive thinking. This is not hope, dressed up as wisdom. This is law, immutable, impersonal, unchanging law. It operates whether you believe in it or not. It operates whether you agree with it or not. It operates whether you know it or not. And tonight, I unveil it to you in its naked simplicity. You have given your inner power to a number. You have allowed a symbol to become your authority. You have allowed an effect to dominate the cause. And because of this, you live in reaction rather than in command. You wait for changes instead of decreeing them. You hope instead of assuming. You ask instead of knowing. Your wallet is not your enemy. It is not your ally either. It is your mirror. It reflects back to you the state of consciousness you habitually occupy. If you see scarcity there, it is because scarcity exists in your awareness. If you see abundance, it is because abundance has become natural to your inner being. The wallet obeys the mind, not the other way around. You do not suffer from a lack of money. You suffer from a misunderstanding of causation. You believe the world acts upon you. You do not yet know that you are the one acting upon the world. You believe circumstances shape your inner state. You do not yet know that your inner state shapes circumstances. You speak to men as though they were alive. You speak to animals as though they were alive. You speak to the earth as though it were alive. But you look at your wallet as though it were a dead object that has authority over you. I tell you that it is alive with your consciousness. And what is alive with your consciousness listens to what you assume to be true of it. Every time you open it in fear, you speak a command. Every time you close it in despair, you speak a command. Every time you look into it and feel unworthy, anxious, small, limited, you are issuing orders to the substance of your world, and the substance obeys. You may think you are merely checking what is there, but you are not. You are communing with your own consciousness in its densest form. You are conversing with yourself made visible, and the tone of that conversation determines what must appear next. You do not realize the authority that rests in your awareness. You do not realize that when you say I am, you are touching the creative center of all existence. You do not realize that every assumption you feel as true is a command that must be carried out in form. You have been using this power unconsciously your entire life. And now I call you to use it deliberately. The great error of man is that he waits for permission to feel powerful. He waits for permission from a bank, from an employer, from circumstance. He believes he will be confident when the number changes. He does not know that the number changes when he becomes confident. He seeks the effect and ignores the cause. Your wallet does not decide what you can be. You decide what your wallet must reflect. When you understand this, not as an idea, not as a theory, but as a living truth within your being, you will feel a quiet revolution occur within you, a reversal, a return to rightful order. From this moment forward, you may continue to look at your wallet as a judge, or you may begin to look at it as a servant. You may continue to plead with it in silence, or you may begin to speak to it in authority. You may continue to ask it what you are allowed to do, or you may begin to tell it what it must become. I am not asking you to imagine riches as a fantasy. I am asking you to recognize authorship. I am not asking you to pretend. I am asking you to remember that the world you walk in is made of your own assumptions, hardened into form. To remember that what you are conscious of being must objectify itself. You have been speaking to your wallet your entire life. You have just been doing it unconsciously, through fear, through doubt, through resignation, through silent inner conversations that shape your outer world with absolute fidelity. Tonight that changes. Tonight you learn to speak as the creator rather than as the victim. Tonight you take your place once more as cause instead of effect. Tonight you stop asking what will happen to you and begin assuming what must happen through you. This is not a message for the many. This is a message for those who are ready to stop negotiating with shadows. This is a message for those who are tired of reacting. This is for those who feel, however faintly, that there is something profoundly wrong with a world where a number governs their sense of life. Your wallet is waiting, not to judge you, not to save you, but to reflect you. As you change within, it must change without. There is no alternative. The law does not debate, it executes. And now that you have heard this, you can never again say you did not know. The great deception under which man lives is this: he believes his wealth exists somewhere outside himself. He believes it lives in the hands of other men, in institutions, in distant places, in future events. He believes it must come to him across time and circumstance, as though it were a wandering thing, uncertain, capricious, difficult to reach. And because he believes this, he feels powerless. He feels separate. He feels dependent. He feels as though his life were governed by forces beyond his control. He says to himself, if only someone would give me an opportunity, if only the season would change, if only the right person would appear, if only the time were right. And with every such statement, he pushes his good farther away. He casts his wealth into the future. He casts it into the hands of others. He casts it into conditions. And then he wonders why it never feels present, never feels secure, never feels his. This belief in separation is the oldest illusion man has ever known. It is the root of his fear. It is the root of his struggle. It is the root of his endless striving. For as long as you believe your supply is outside you, you will chase it, and as long as you chase it, it will appear to flee from you. You do not realize that you have already accepted the great lie, that you are separate from your own substance, that you are divided from the source of your own supply, that consciousness is here and wealth is there, that you are the seeker, and abundance is the thing to be found. This is the true fall of man. Not a fall from a place, but a fall from a state. Not a fall from heaven, but a fall from knowing. It is written in ancient scripture that man ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and was cast out of Eden. This is not history. This is anatomy of consciousness. The tree of good and evil is the belief in division, the belief in this and that, the belief in I and not I, the belief in inner and outer as two separate powers. When man accepted this belief, he fell into the consciousness of lack. He began to see the world as something apart from himself. He began to see supply as something he must obtain, rather than something he must assume. He began to see God as distant, rather than as his own awareness of being. And the moment he accepted separation, paradise disappeared, not because it was taken from him, but because he could no longer see it. You have never been separated from your wealth. You have only been separated from the awareness of it. Your poverty, your struggle, your anxiety about money are not proofs of absence. They are proofs of misidentification. You have identified with effects instead of causes, with shadows instead of substance. You say, my wallet is empty. I say to you, your awareness is full. You say, I do not have enough. I say to you, you do not yet know who you are. For the truth is this, Your wallet is not a reality. It is a shadow cast by your habitual inner state in relation to wealth. It is yesterday's assumption frozen into form. It is the echo of what you have been conscious of being. And no man has ever been governed by a shadow unless he first forgot the substance that cast it. You do not live in a world of causes and effects as two separate realms. There is only one cause, and that is consciousness. Everything else is effect, and effect has no creative power. It can only mirror. Yet man bows before the mirror and begs it to change. He opens his wallet as though it were a verdict passed upon his life. He looks into it as though it were a judgment upon his worth. He allows a reflection to define the reality that produced it. This is the deepest form of ignorance. Your wealth is not waiting in a building. It is not waiting in another man's decision. It is not waiting in tomorrow's events. Your wealth is waiting in your assumption. It waits at the level of being. It waits at the level of identity. It waits at the level of what you secretly feel yourself to be. And the moment you cease feeling yourself to be separate from it, the shadow must move. You have been taught to believe that you must get money, that you must earn money, that you must attract money. And in every one of these ideas, separation is assumed. You are here. Money is there. And some bridge must be painfully built across the distance. But I tell you, the bridge is an illusion. You are not meant to cross into wealth. You are meant to awaken as wealth. You cannot become what you already are. You can only remember it. The belief that your supply is outside you produces fear. The belief that your supply is within you produces peace. And peace is the unmistakable sign that you have returned to Eden. Not a place of luxury, but a state of certainty. You ask, where is my abundance? And I answer, where is your awareness? For wherever awareness rests, there reality forms. Your wallet responds not to effort, not to pleading, not to anxiety, not to force. It responds to state. It responds to identity. It responds to what feels most natural to you when you are alone with your own being. The one who feels poor will move through the world as a poor man, even if he briefly holds coins in his hands. And the one who feels wealthy will move through the world as a wealthy man even before a single visible symbol appears. The world never gives you what you want. It gives you what you want. It gives you what you are. And as long as you say, money is outside me, you proclaim separation. As long as you say, my good depends on others, you proclaim bondage. As long as you say, my time has not yet come, you confess delay. But the moment you feel, not claim, not affirm, but feel, I and my wealth are one, the ancient wound closes. For what was lost in assumption is restored in assumption. You do not move into abundance by force. You melt into it by surrendering the lie of separation. Your wallet is not far from you. It is closer than your breath. It is your breath slowed into form. And when you change the rhythm of your inner breathing from fear to certainty, the form must adjust. You are not seeking money. You are seeking yourself. And every attempt to possess wealth without regaining union with your own creative power will carry with it anxiety, restlessness, and the quiet terror that it might disappear. But the man who knows that his substance is consciousness cannot fear loss. For how can the source lose its own expression? The separation was never real, only believed. And belief is the only door through which man fell. Belief will be the only door through which he rises. Consciousness is the only reality. There is no other, not circumstance, not matter, not events, not men, not institutions, not fortune, not fate. All these are but arrangements of consciousness made visible. The world you touch is not the cause of your experience. It is the result of your state of being. And until you grasp this, not as a theory, but as an inner knowing, you will continue to look outward for what can only be found within. When Moses asked God for his name, the answer was not a title, not a place, not a throne in the heavens. The answer was simply, I am. That is not the name of a distant deity. That is the name of your own awareness of being. Every time you say, I am, you are invoking the only creative power that exists. You are naming the source from which all things proceed. You have been taught to imagine God as something outside yourself, governing from afar. But I tell you, God is nearer to you than your own breath. for God is your very sense of existing. Before you were rich or poor, before you were successful or struggling, before you were confident or afraid, you were I am. And whatever you attach to I am, you give life to. Say I am poor, and you do not describe a temporary condition. You decree a state. Say I am wealthy, and you are not boasting. You are commanding creation to rearrange itself accordingly. The world does not question these commands. It does not investigate their logic. It does not weigh their worthiness. It simply obeys. You believe, you react to life. In truth, life reacts to you. Man does not create by effort. He creates by identity. He does not bring things into being by struggle. He brings them into being by assuming that he already is what he desires to be. And the world, being only a faithful servant, must mirror that assumption. This is why one man rises with ease, where another stumbles endlessly, not because of intellect, not because of opportunity, not because of favor, but because each lives from a different I am. One feels himself to be secure, and security follows him like a shadow. Another feels himself to be lacking, and lack clings to him with equal faithfulness. You do not attract what you want. You express what you are. You may say, but I did not choose my poverty. And I say to you, you did not choose it consciously, but you chose the state from which it came. The subconscious does not reason. It does not judge. It accepts feeling as fact. And what it accepts, it must reproduce in form. Your consciousness is not a container inside your body. Your body is a pattern inside your consciousness. Your wallet is not something you possess. It is something you are experiencing as a symbol of your inner conviction. Every dollar, every empty space where a dollar might be, every bill, every increase, every delay, all of it is consciousness in motion. There is no external source of wealth. There is only internal permission. When a man feels he must struggle to survive, survival becomes his ceiling. When he feels he must compete to receive, conflict becomes his environment. When he feels he must beg for provision, humiliation becomes familiar. But when he feels himself to be the source, the entire world reorganizes around his certainty. You ask why one man seems always to have, while another always comes up short. It is written, "To him that hath, more shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that which he hath shall be taken away." This is not a moral judgment. It is a psychological law. It has nothing to do with virtue, and nothing to do with punishment. It speaks only of state. The one who has is the one who has in consciousness. He carries the feeling of possession. The one who has not is the one who feels himself to be a stranger to supply, even when supply temporarily appears in his hands. Feeling is the determining factor, not thought, not desire, not words. Feeling. Two men may speak of wealth. One feels it as natural, the other feels it as distant, and their worlds will reflect the difference with ruthless precision. You are always living from a state, whether you know it or not. You wake in a state, you work in a state, you speak from a state, you spend from a state, you fear from a state. And every state is a mold. Every state casts shadows, and those shadows become your life. You create wealth when you cease asking how to get it, and instead ask, who is the one who already has it? You do not move money with labor. You move it with identity. You do not change your future by fighting circumstances. You change it by selecting a new I am. And this selection is not made with the mouth. It is made with the feeling of being. The most dangerous belief man holds is not that God does not exist, but that God is not him. For when God is placed outside, power is placed outside. And when power is placed outside, helplessness becomes the inner atmosphere of life. But when a man realizes that his awareness of being is the very creative force of the universe, fear loses its foundation. He may still feel sensations, but terror dissolves, for nothing can truly threaten the source of all things. You are not here to survive reality. You are here to shape it. When you truly grasp that consciousness is the one and only reality, you will no longer plead with life. You will converse with it. You will no longer ask, will it happen? You will ask, who must I be for this to feel inevitable? And whatever feels inevitable to you internally must, without exception, become visible externally. Your wallet does not change when your circumstances change. Your circumstances change when your wallet within you changes. The outer is only the footprint of the inner, and until the inner step is taken, the outer ground remains unmoved. Most pray as beggars, but the prayer that transforms is not a request. It is a realization. True prayer is not asking for what you lack. True prayer is accepting what you are. A man does not pray for abundance when he says, "Give me." He prays when he feels silently and without effort, "I have." And the universe moves to justify that feeling. There is no force in wealth greater than the calm certainty of being its natural owner before it appears. And when this certainty hardens into identity, the world has no defense against it. You may delay it with doubt, you may blur it with fear, but you cannot cancel it. For consciousness does not negotiate with facts. It generates them. And all this is not mysticism. It is not poetry. It is not symbolism. It is the mechanics of existence itself. Your life is not happening to you. It is flowing from you. Your financial world is not reacting to markets. It is reacting to meaning. Your wallet is not ruled by economics. It is ruled by assumption. And assumption is nothing more and nothing less than who you agree to be when no one is watching. Most men think about money. Very few men think from money. And that single difference separates the dreamer from the possessor, the seeker from the one who has already entered. To think about a thing is to place it outside yourself. To think from a thing is to place yourself within it. To think about wealth is to remain poor. To think from wealth is to make poverty impossible. Let me make this plain, so plain that no confusion may remain. If I asked you now to think about Paris, you would immediately place Paris outside yourself. You would imagine a place you are not. You might picture streets you are not walking on, buildings you are not touching, air you are not breathing. You would remain here, and Paris would remain there. Distance would be preserved. Separation would be maintained. But if I asked you to think from Paris, something entirely different would occur. You would have to move your sense of self. You would have to feel that you are already there. You would no longer be observing Paris as a distant object. You would be seeing from within it. You would hear from within it. You would be standing in it. And in that moment, distance would collapse. The same rule applies to money. When you think about your wallet, you observe it from the outside. You look at it as something you want to change, something you hope will improve, something that one day may become different. And by doing so, you confirm that you are not yet the one who has. But when you think from your wallet as it would be if it already reflected abundance, you no longer attempt to change it. You become it. And the world always rearranges itself around what you become, never around what you merely desire. Most men think of money as a destination. I tell you, it must become your point of origin. They say, when I have this amount, I will feel safe. I say, feel safe first, and the amount must follow. They say, when my balance increases, my anxiety will disappear. I say, let the anxiety disappear now, and the balance will rise to justify it. Effect follows feeling, always. You must stop standing before your wallet as a petitioner and begin standing within it as its owner. The moment you do this inwardly, the outer struggle becomes meaningless, for you are no longer waiting for wealth to arrive. You are expressing it. To think from money is not to fantasize wildly. It is to let the posture of possession become natural. Ask yourself this: how would I breathe if my supply were secure? How would I stand if my future were safe? How would I move through the day if my provision were unquestioned? You need not answer in words. Your body already knows. Your nervous system already understands. It has lived in anxiety. It can learn to live in ease. The difference between the poor man and the wealthy man is not numbers. It is tension. The poor man moves with contraction. The wealthy man moves with quiet expansion. And this expansion is not arrogance. It is not noise. It is not noise. It is not display. It is rest. To think from money is to rest in one's supply before the supply appears. When you think about your wallet, you check it nervously. When you think from your wallet, you forget it, because what is secure does not demand attention. The man who constantly checks his balance reveals his state more loudly than any words could ever do. He is not checking numbers. He is seeking reassurance. And until reassurance is found within, no amount outside will satisfy it. You must learn to stand ahead of your evidence. Every great assumption is formed before proof arrives. If proof came first, no faith would be required. And faith is not blind hope. Faith is loyalty to an unseen state. The unseen must be made real before the seen can follow. You will not enter abundance by reasoning your way to it. You enter by relocating your sense of self. This is why affirmations fail when they are mere words. For many speak as beggars, trying to convince themselves they are kings. And the subconscious is not convinced by speech. It is convinced by position. A beggar who declares wealth remains a beggar. A king who speaks little remains a king. Your inner position determines your outer condition. Do not say, I will be wealthy. Say nothing, and simply stand as one who already is. When you walk as one who hopes, life delays. When you walk as one who expects, life arranges itself. Expectation is not excitement. It is calm inevitability. The world does not respond to desperation. It responds to certainty. And certainty is not loud. It is not emotional. It is not tense. It is quiet. When a thing is certain, you do not wrestle with it. You do not argue for it. You do not defend it. You do not chase it, you live from it. That is thinking from. And this must become your relationship with money. You must stop asking what your wallet contains and begin asking who you are when you no longer fear what it contains. The moment fear leaves, expansion enters. The moment expansion enters, movement begins. And the moment movement begins within, the world must follow with mechanical obedience. You do not command money with words. You command it with posture. Your inner posture is always speaking. It says, I am protected, or it says, I am threatened. It says, I am provided for, or it says, I must scramble to survive. And the universe hears not your vocabulary, but your stance. To think from money is to stop scrambling. To think from money is to stop leaning. To think from money is to stop leaning. To think from money is to stop racing for impact. To think from money is to stop living as though something terrible might happen if the numbers do not change. Your fear has been your loudest affirmation. Your calm will be your most powerful prayer. You cannot think from abundance while trembling inside. So you must practice inner stillness as faithfully as you once practiced worry. You accustomed your nerves to fear. You must now educate them into peace. And peace does not come from improvement in numbers. It comes from improvement in identity. When your identity changes, numbers follow like shadows at noon. This is not discipline of the mind alone. It is discipline of the self. You must feel at home in sufficiency before sufficiency arrives. You must feel legitimate in abundance before abundance feels legitimate to you. No man ever remains long in a state that feels foreign. If wealth feels unnatural to you, you will find ways to leave it. If poverty feels normal to you, you will find ways to return to it. This is why thinking from is more important than thinking of. You can think of riches endlessly and remain in want. But the moment you think from riches, want dissolves even before riches appear. Your wallet is not something you look at. It is something you stand in. It is a psychological place before it is a physical one. And tonight, you must choose where you are standing. Every man is standing somewhere inwardly, even when his feet touch the same street as another. Two men may sit side by side in identical circumstances. One is inwardly starving, the other is inwardly full. And the future of these two men has already been decided before a single visible change occurs. Because they stand in different states. One waits, the other expects. And expectation is the womb of fulfillment. Many believe that visualization alone is the secret. They close their eyes, they see pictures, they imagine scenes, and they believe the work is done. But I tell you, 1,000 images without feeling are powerless. They are but empty shadows drifting through the mind. Imagination only becomes creative when it is married to feeling. You may picture a wallet filled with money endlessly and yet remain unchanged. You may see digits in your mind for years and never touch them in your world. Why? Because the picture alone does not create. The state creates. The feeling is the womb in which all images must be conceived if they are to be born. Imagination is not fantasy. Fantasy is escape. Imagination is identity. Fantasy watches. Imagination becomes. fantasy entertains. Imagination transforms. The man who fantasizes about wealth watches himself become wealthy. The man who imagines wealth feels himself already to be the one who has it. The difference is everything. You must understand this, for many are deceived at this very point. They mistake emotional excitement for transformation. They feel a rush when they imagine. Their heart beats faster, their breath quickens, they feel elevated for a moment, and they believe they have entered the state. But excitement is not possession. Excitement is surprise, and surprise always implies that something is unusual, rare, unexpected. What is truly yours does not excite you. It reassures you. It settles you. It becomes normal. A man who receives an unexpected gift may feel excitement. A man who lives in wealth feels no thrill at receiving. He feels continuity. The thrill fades. The state remains. If your imaginal act produces excitement, you are still desiring. If it produces calm certainty, you have assumed. The true sign that you have entered the state is not joy, not tears, not ecstasy. It is naturalness. You must reach the point where you feel, quietly and without effort, this is normal for me. No fireworks, no trembling, no emotional storm, just quiet recognition, just inner familiarity. That is the moment of creation. That is the moment when the subconscious accepts the new state as real. Your subconscious does not respond to enthusiasm. It responds to conviction, and conviction does not shout. It rests. You may impress your conscious mind with a thrilling image, but you will only impress your subconscious with a natural one. The subconscious asks only one question. Is this who you are? Not, is this what you want? Not, is this what you hope for? But is this what feels like home? And until wealth feels like home within you, it will not remain outside you. This is why many experience brief increases and sudden losses. They momentarily touch the state through desire or effort, but they never settle into it as identity. And the world reflects this instability faithfully. They rise as guests and fall as strangers. You are not meant to visit abundance. You are meant to dwell there. The world does not mirror effort. It mirrors residence. So when you imagine your wallet, do not seek sensation, seek settlement. Do not ask, can I feel excited about this? Ask, can I feel at ease with this? Ease is the signature of ownership. When a thing is yours, you do not tremble before it. You handle it without ceremony. This is why your imaginal scene must be simple. The simpler it is, the more powerful it becomes. Complexity excites the mind. Simplicity convinces the being. A single quiet moment of recognition is more creative than 1,000 elaborate pictures fueled by longing. You must feel it as finished, not as coming, not as approaching, not as forming, finished. The difference between hoping and assuming is the difference between tension and rest. When you hope, your body leans forward into the future. When you assume, your body relaxes into the present, and only the present is creative. The future is only a projection of your present feeling. Many visualize with strain. They concentrate fiercely. They force images. They wrestle with their own mind, and afterward, they feel exhausted. This is not creation. This is labor in the wrong realm. Creation is effortless when it is true. The seed does not strain to become the tree. It simply accepts what it is, and the form unfolds by law. Your wallet does not change because you strain at it. It changes because the one who stands behind it has changed. If you imagine and afterward feel anxious, doubtful, restless, impatient, nothing has been created. You have remained in the old state, wearing a temporary costume. But if after imagining you feel quiet, grounded, unhurried, something has been impressed. The true imaginal act makes you indifferent to time. You no longer ask, when will it happen? Because the question no longer feels relevant. Only those who still feel separated ask, when? The one who has assumed asks only how he shall now live. The moment you feel that your supply is secure inwardly, your outer conduct changes without effort. Your decisions shift, your tone shifts, your expectations shift, and life responds accordingly. You cannot fake this. You cannot convince the subconscious with words alone. You can only impress it by becoming, and becoming is not an action. It is a surrender of the previous identity. This is where man truly resists. He wants the new without leaving the old. He wants the increase without releasing the contraction. He wants abundance as an addition to his fear, instead of a replacement for it. But you cannot carry both. You cannot feel threatened and secure at the same time. You cannot be someone who expects loss and someone who expects overflow at once. One must die for the other to live. Your excitement about money is often just your old lack wearing a bright costume. Your calm about money is your new state taking root. Do not measure your imaginal success by your emotions. Measure it by your inner temperature. Is it hot with urgency or cool with certainty? Urgency belongs to hunger. Certainty belongs to ownership. You will know when you have touched the state because your relationship with your wallet will soften. You will stop fearing it. You will stop checking it compulsively. You will stop bracing yourself before looking. You will stop assigning your worth to its contents. And this behavioral change will arise without effort. It will not feel like discipline. It will feel like relief. That relief is the stamp of the subconscious. That relief is the signal that the new identity has been accepted. From that moment forward, the outer movement becomes a matter of time, sequence, and arrangement. The creative act itself is already complete. Do not chase the feeling. Allow the feeling to emerge through recognition. Do not try to feel rich. Let go of feeling poor. The absence of fear is the first form of wealth. Before abundance appears as numbers, it appears as silence where anxiety once lived. And that silence is the true miracle. When you lie down to imagine, do not seek to impress the future. Seek to change the present you. Ask not, what will happen? Ask, who am I now, as this is already true. If you cannot feel wealthy yet, feel neutral. Neutral is closer to abundance than fear will ever be. From neutrality, ease grows. From ease, certainty grows. From certainty, realization grows. And realization grows not by force, but by familiarity. Your imaginal acts must not be acts of seduction. They must be acts of acceptance. You are not trying to persuade life to give you something. You are allowing yourself to accept what you have already become in consciousness. When the acceptance is complete, manifestation has no resistance left to overcome. There was a man who came to one of my meetings many years ago, a simple man by all external measures, but inwardly burning with a desperate desire to change his fortune. By his own confession, he was nearly broke. His work was irregular, his income uncertain, his obligations pressing. He had tried every outer method he knew, and had come to the end of his resources. So he came to hear about imagination, not as entertainment, but as a last resort. He sat quietly in the back for several evenings, listening as I spoke of consciousness as the only reality, of assumption as the only creative act. He heard me tell others that they must stop waiting for circumstances to improve and must instead assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He heard me say again and again that the outer world is only the shadow of the inner state, and something in him stirred. After one lecture, he approached me. There was no arrogance in him, only a kind of fierce humility. The humility of a man who knows he has failed by every accepted method and is willing to try something new, no matter how strange it sounds. He said to me, "Neville, I have listened to you speak of this law. It sounds wonderful, but I have no savings, no capital, no steady opportunity. I am surrounded by lack. Are you telling me that I can start with nothing but imagination and alter this?" I answered him as I answer you. You have never had nothing. You have always had the one thing that creates all things. Your awareness of being. You may be poor in pockets, but you are rich in consciousness. And consciousness is the only wealth that truly acts. He had a small habit, a harmless one by the world's standards. From time to time, he would go to the racetrack in Mexico, the Caliente track, and place small bets. He did not have the means to gamble heavily, nor was he a student of horses. It was simply an escape, a brief excitement from an otherwise heavy life. I told him, "Very well, if you are going to play, then you shall use the track as a laboratory for the law. You will not depend on odds, on tips, or on study. You will depend on assumption alone." His eyes lit with a kind of wild curiosity. "What must I do?" he asked. "Do not begin from the races," I said. "Begin from the victory. Do not imagine horses running. Do not imagine anxious waiting. Go straight to the end. Imagine only the final scene, one simple moment that would be true if, and only if, you had already won a substantial sum. Fix that moment and repeat it nightly until it feels like the most natural thing in the world. He chose his end. He decided he would imagine standing at the window of the cashier's booth, feeling the weight of a thick bundle of money or a large check placed into his hands. He would feel the cool glass, hear the rustle of papers, sense the presence of others around him, and know with utter certainty that this was his. But I cautioned him, make the scene short and vivid. See it not as from the outside, but from your own eyes. Do not watch yourself winning, be the one who has already won, and feel the peculiar satisfaction that would be yours in that moment, not wild excitement, but the solid joy of completion. He took my words seriously. For more than 2 weeks, every night before he surrendered to sleep, he lay still and enacted that scene. He felt the counter beneath his hands. He heard the voice behind the window telling him the amount was his. He felt the paper being placed into his palm. He imagined, just for a second, placing that money inside his shirt, close to his body, and walking away from the window filled with quiet triumph. He did not visualize the entire day. He did not concern himself with which horses would run or how the sequence would unfold. He simply let that last imaginal moment replay, again and again, until it became familiar. At first, he told me later, it felt like play. His body still carried the habits of fear, and his mind would whisper, this is foolishness. You are deceiving yourself. But he continued. Night after night he told himself, if imagination creates reality, then this simple act must bear fruit. I will test it as the apostle urged. Test yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. He did not imagine for hours. A few minutes sufficed. But in those minutes, he was utterly focused, fully present. He did not drift through images. He entered the scene. He became the man who received. And always, he let the act end with the feeling of it is done. One day, he decided to visit the track. Not with desperation, but with a curious calm. He did not feel the feverish urgency of a man trying to win. Rather, he said, it felt like a man walking into a play whose final scene he had already written. He filled his tickets as he normally would, but something strange occurred. He found himself duplicating certain choices without knowing why, marking the same combination twice when he had meant only to do so once. His rational mind called it error. The deeper self knew it as arrangement. As the races proceeded, the improbable happened. One winner, then another, then another. The crowd grew feverish. He grew still. With each victory, the gap between his imaginal end and the unfolding outer sequence diminished. When the last race had finished and the tickets were tallied, he discovered that his so-called mistake had placed him in possession of 2 large winning tickets instead of 1. The amount was far beyond anything he had ever possessed. Tens of thousands in that day, a fortune for a man in his condition. He went to the window, just as he had seen in his inner vision, and there, in solid fact, he lived the scene he had rehearsed nightly. The glass, the voice, the paper in his hands, the sensation of placing it against his body. Each detail was not similar. It was exact. The drama he had played in silence was now audible and visible on the stage of the world. When he later told me the story, he said, Neville, I would have called this luck once. I would have said, what a coincidence, what marvelous fortune. But after those nights of imagining, I cannot accept that explanation. It was too precise. The odds were too vast. It was not chance. It was as if the whole day was obeying a script I had already written. And I replied, it did obey a script, but not one written in pen. It obeyed a script written in feeling. You proved the law. Many will hear this and cling to the outer detail. They will say, if I go to the track and imagine I too shall win. They miss the point entirely. The racetrack is not the power. The pool is not the source. The venue is irrelevant. It is the method that matters, the deliberate assumption of the end as now. This man did not win because the odds favored him. The odds were against him. He did not win because he studied horses, for he did not. He won because, in consciousness, he had already received the money. The law found the most efficient and natural bridge of incidents to bring his inner act to outer fact. The world calls it luck when it does not know the cause. I call it law, because the cause is always assumption. Notice something important. He did not imagine repeated attempts. He did not imagine endless striving. He imagined a single completed scene, a final moment of having. That is why the outer sequence arranged itself to fit the finished picture. He had moved to the end, and the end reshaped the middle. If he had instead imagined himself trying to win, studying, worrying, hoping, the law would have reproduced exactly that. Effort, strain, delay. It is not what you want that manifests. It is what you assume as real. And his repetition was not mechanical. He did not chant words like a parrot. He lived the scene. Every night, as he drifted off, he let that quiet satisfaction wash through him. The feeling of, this came to pass, it is mine now. That feeling is what impressed the subconscious. Not the words, not the pictures. Understand this well, for the same law that arranged a day at the racetrack will tomorrow arrange the flow of money into your wallet. The event is irrelevant. The principle is identical. The day may differ, the channel may differ, the figures may differ, but the law does not alter. When you speak to your wallet as though it were alive, you are doing exactly what this man did. You are choosing an end and clothing it with life. You are no longer standing as a beggar before a fixed fact. You are standing as the author before a blank page. You may say, but Neville, the racetrack story was unusual, extravagant. Is it not dangerous to depend on such things? I answer you, do not depend on anything. Depend on the law. The racetrack was merely the stage upon which he tested what I am teaching you now. Your stage may be your work, your business, an unexpected opportunity, or an opening you have never yet conceived. The stage is unimportant. The author is all. The point of that story is not that you should seek extraordinary events, but that you should realize how precisely the outer world can bend to an inner assumption when it is held with feeling and persistence. If imagination could string together 6 races and a mistaken duplicate ticket to deliver an exact sum, can it not find a way to fill a simple leather folding of paper we call a wallet? In truth, the wallet is easier, for it is not bound to a single day, a single location, a single sequence. Your wallet is constantly moving through your world, meeting hands, counters, pockets, drawers. It is a perfect instrument for the law to express itself. When that man stood at the cashier's window, he did not think, what a miracle. He thought, of course. That of course is the mark of true assumption. He had lived it so faithfully within that, when it rose without, the feeling was not astonishment, but recognition. You must reach that place with your wallet. When you open it and find it thick, you must feel, of course. That of course cannot be forced. It must grow out of repeated inner acquaintance. Do you see now why I tell you these stories? Not to dazzle you, but to bring the law down from abstraction into flesh. The man at the racetrack was not a saint. He was not a mystic. He was not more spiritual than you. He was simply willing to assume and persist. He took a simple scene, repeated it in the drowsy state, and allowed it to become natural. That is all. And I say to you, if such a simple act could bring about what the world calls impossible gains, then your simple act of speaking to your wallet, of feeling it already supplied, of imagining it as full and faithful, is more than enough to reorder the stream of money in your life. The money he received was not created that day. It existed already in circulation, waiting only for a new owner. His assumption selected it. In the same way, the money that will touch your wallet is not somewhere in a distant future. It circulates now, in this very moment, through countless hands, accounts, businesses. Your assumption will determine whether it passes you by or passes through you. He did not ask the racetrack to be kind. He did not ask the horses to cooperate. He did not ask the stewards for favor. He asked only himself to believe. And once he believed, life itself became his accomplice. I tell you this with all solemnity. What that man proved with tickets, you are called to prove with your daily life. He used the law once in a spectacular manner. You are invited to use it quietly, constantly, with your wallet as your daily witness. When you next touch it, remember him. Remember the quiet nights of rehearsal. Remember the exactness of the result. And then, instead of sighing over what is not there, close your eyes for a moment and feel what would be there if you had already assumed correctly. Say inwardly, not as a plea, but as an acknowledgement. You are full. You serve me well. You are the outer sign of my inner wealth. And feel the same calm that man felt as he walked away from the window. Money pressed against his heart, knowing that the invisible had become visible by law, not by luck. It was never luck. It was always assumption. There was another man who came to me, not from the racetrack, not from the edges of society, but from the very heart of what the world calls respectable life. He was an executive in a well-known New York bank. By outer standards, he was successful, orderly, disciplined. He wore a fine suit, carried a neat briefcase, and lived a life the world would have called secure. And yet, when he came to see me, his eyes betrayed the same anxiety I had seen in the poor man at the track. You see, my friend, outer form does not free a man. A title does not free a man. A salary does not free a man. Only consciousness frees a man. This executive sat across from me one evening after a lecture. The hall was nearly empty. The chairs still held the warmth of the bodies that had filled them, but now the air was quiet. He waited until others had gone. Then he said, "Neville, I am not starving. I am not destitute. But I am trapped, and that trap is beginning to feel like a slow death." He told me his story. He had been with the same bank for many years. He had risen, step by careful step, through diligence and reliability. He was not lazy, he was not foolish, he was conscientious, but he had reached a ceiling. His pay had leveled off. His responsibilities had leveled off. The cost of his life had not. He had a family, children growing fast, tuition looming, a wife who did her best to stretch every dollar. He saw clearly that his present income could not carry the future. He desired to offer them. He went to his superiors and spoke plainly. They told him what the world always tells such men. We appreciate you, but there is no room above you. If you are dissatisfied, you are free to seek another position. Free, but not secure. Released, but not supported. He walked out of that conversation not with relief, but with a greater knot in his stomach. He felt as though he was standing on a thin ledge, the building behind him sealed, the space before him open and uncertain. When he finished his story, he looked at me and said, "I have heard you speak of imagination. I have heard you tell these extraordinary tales of fortune and change. But mine is not a racetrack fantasy. This is a sober, professional life. Do you mean to tell me that the same law applies?" I smiled and answered, "The law does not concern itself with hats and collars. It does not know the difference between a banker's desk and a racetrack rail. It deals only in states of consciousness. You are as free in your suit as the man in his work clothes, if you will dare to assume." He asked, "What should I do? I cannot see a way. There is no position open, no promotion in view, no offer on the horizon. All I can see is a long corridor of no." I said to him, "Then stop looking down the corridor. Close your eyes to what is, and for once in your life, open them to what could be. Tell me, if anything were possible, if there were no restrictions, no politics, no scarcity, what position would you most delight to hold?" He hesitated at first, as most men do, for they have been trained to cut their desire down to what they think is reasonable. I insisted, "Do not give me the modest version. Give me the true one. If you could shape your world from within, what would you be?" Finally, he said, "If I could choose freely, I would not stay in this bank at all. I would like to manage the investment funds of a large foundation or a great university. I would like to be responsible for guiding substantial sums wisely, with dignity, without the constant petty politics of my present environment. That, I confess, would delight me." He said it like a confession, as though he had uttered something forbidden. I said to him, "Then, that is your end. Not a little raise, not a slightly better office, not a mild improvement. The end, you will assume, is the man who has already received such an offer, accepted it, and lived a day in that capacity." His rational mind immediately objected. "But Neville, I know no one in such circles. I have no qualifications beyond what I do now. I have no means of entering that world. It is a pleasant dream, but how?" I cut him off gently. "I did not ask you how. I asked you what. The how is never your domain. The how belongs to the law. You concern yourself with the end. The law will weave the means." I then outlined the simple practice I now give to you. I said, "Tonight and every night before you fall asleep, you are to abandon the story of being trapped. For a few minutes, you will not be the man who is worried, nor the man who has been refused. You will be the man who, this very day, has closed the door of his old position behind him and opened the door of the new. I told him, lie quietly on your bed, relax the body, let the day drain from your limbs. Then construct a very short, very simple scene that would be true if, and only if, you were already employed in that new capacity. He asked, what kind of scene? I said, choose something natural, something that would happen after the fact, not the moment of negotiation. Perhaps you are at home in the evening, and your wife is asking, how was your first day? Perhaps you see yourself hanging your coat in a new office, feeling the weight of greater responsibility, but also the freedom of higher pay. Perhaps you receive a letter confirming your new appointment. Take one of these and make it real. He settled on a scene. He imagined that he was sitting at his own dining table at the close of the day, and his wife was across from him. He would hear her voice asking, with that mixture of curiosity and relief, well, how did it go? And he would answer simply, it was a fine day. They are exactly the kind of people I wished to work with. It is everything we hoped for, and more secure than we imagined. That was all. No long speech, no detailed decor. Just that short exchange, loaded quietly with the feeling of a problem solved, a desire fulfilled. I instructed him, do not imagine this as something you hope will happen. Imagine it as something that did happen today. Let the day in your imagination be this day. When you hear her voice, feel the chair beneath you, see the faint light of the evening, and answer her as a man answers about what has already occurred. Then fall asleep in that feeling. He did as I asked. Night after night, he came home from the same bank job, with the same unresolved future, and yet before sleep, he left it all. He closed his eyes and entered a home where his inner world had already changed. He did not tell his wife what he was doing. He did not speak of it to anyone. He kept it as a secret act between his own I am and the law. Some nights, he said, his imagination flowed easily. He could hear her voice clear as a bell and feel the soft satisfaction in his own reply. Other nights, his mind protested. Thoughts of bills and letters and closed doors would intrude, but he persisted. No matter how distracted he was, he returned the scene to its simple line. He refused to rehearse the conversations of lack. He chose instead this one brief conversation of fulfillment. Weeks passed. Outwardly, nothing changed. No one at the bank mentioned a new role. No stranger knocked at his door. The physical world kept its usual pace. But inwardly, something had already shifted. He began to walk through his present job with a lighter step, not as a prisoner dragging chains, but as a man passing through a corridor on his way somewhere else. He told me that one morning, as he shaved, he caught his own eye in the mirror and realized that he was not worrying. The old, habitual dread was simply absent. He felt, something is already in motion. I do not know what, but it is done. That quiet confidence is the invisible sign that the assumption has taken root. Then, early in February, this entire conversation with him had taken place in the first week of December. He received a letter. It was from a man whose name he knew only vaguely, a director associated with one of the largest foundations in the country. The letter was short. It asked him if he would be willing to meet and discuss a potential executive position handling the investment affairs of the foundation. He brought the letter to me, still almost afraid to believe what his eyes were seeing. I read it and smiled. And you thought the law would need your help in arranging the how? I said. He met with that director. The conversation flowed easily. The questions matched his experience. The position was precisely what he had described to me months before: oversight of investment funds, dignity, stability, generous compensation, and none of the small office politics that had plagued him. Within a very short period, the offer was formalized, and he accepted. He did not lobby for it. He did not send out a flurry of applications. He did not beg or bargain. He assumed the assumption, impressed upon the subconscious in the drowsy state night after night, sent out its silent command. Now you may ask, but Neville, how did the director think of him? Why him, among so many? The director himself might have said, you came to mind, or your name was recommended, or something told me you would be suitable. But I tell you, that something was the law moving through the web of consciousness. When that executive took on, in imagination, the feeling of being already employed in such a role, he altered his inner state. And because all men are joined in the one great consciousness, that inner shift registered. It whispered itself into the mind of the director as a quiet thought. Perhaps I should consider this man. It influenced the timing of letters, the tone of conversations, the evaluations of committees. What the world calls coincidence was nothing more than the orderly response of the law to a new assumption. And here is what is vital for you, my friend. This man's previous situation appeared absolutely solid. His employers told him plainly, there is no advancement here. The field of such positions seemed narrow. He had no known connections. Yet none of this mattered, because none of this was cause. These were only effects, frozen pictures of his old state of consciousness. He did not argue with his boss. He did not fight his environment. He changed the only thing that ever truly matters, his own awareness of being. He ceased to be the man who longed for a better position, and became, in feeling, the man who had already received it. Do you see now how this applies to your wallet? He did not stare at his pay envelope and curse it. He did not trace numbers with a frown and say, there is never enough. He took his attention away from the insufficient figure and placed it upon an inner scene where the figure had already grown. Your wallet may now seem as fixed to you as that man's salary once seemed to him. You may say, there is no human way this can change. My work is limited. My surroundings are fixed. I do not see any avenue for increase. And I say to you exactly what I said to him. You do not need to see a way. You need only to assume an end. If an entire foundation could be moved, directors stirred, letters sent, interviews arranged, contracts drawn, all because one man imagined himself dining at home as the newly appointed executive, how much more easily can the flow into your wallet be rearranged? Perhaps the law will move through your present employer, opening a path that yesterday was closed. Perhaps it will move through another company, another client, another idea, another gift. Perhaps it will move through 10 small streams instead of one large one. That is not your concern. Your only task is to do inwardly what that executive did. Choose the end and abide in it. Imagine, as he did, the after scene. Not the begging for a raise, but the quiet enjoyment of already having the increase. Not the anxious counting of coins, but the simple, deep breath of relief when you open your wallet and find it thick, supplied, loyal. Not the struggle for the next opportunity, but the contentment of having stepped into it. He did not imagine himself asking, when will such a job come? He imagined answering, it is already mine, and the day was good. In the same way, do not imagination yourself pleading, when will my finances improve? Imagine yourself speaking, inwardly, from the other side of the bridge. My wallet is always full. Money comes to me with ease. This is now normal. When you do this night after night, as he did, you are not telling fairy tales. You are writing in the only place where the script of your life is truly written, your own consciousness. Years later, when I met him again, he told me that the greatest gift was not the position, nor the income, though both had blessed his family. The greatest gift, he said, was the knowledge that his world moved in response to his inner state. He said, I walk into every boardroom now with the quiet awareness that I am not at the mercy of these men. I am meeting the outpicturing of what I have assumed. If I desire a new arrangement, I no longer tremble. I assume. That is the knowledge I want for you. Your wallet is not at the mercy of employers, markets, so-called economies. These are all channels, and channels can change. The source dwells within you as your own I am. That bank executive proved it in his professional life. The same law will prove itself in your personal life when you dare to use it. So take his story not as something distant belonging to another time, but as a living pattern. See in his experience a mirror of what can happen in yours. He stood in a place where there was no way out until he stopped looking for a way out and instead assumed he was already out. Then the way appeared. You may stand today in front of a thin wallet or a pressing bill or a narrow income. Do not argue with it. Do not bow before it. Close your physical eyes and open the inner. Choose your end. Perhaps it is the feeling of always finding your wallet pleasantly heavy. Perhaps it is the ease of paying every obligation without strain. Perhaps it is the calm of knowing that there is always more coming in than going out. Whatever your chosen end, do as that man did. Hear the voices that would surround you if it were already so. Feel the naturalness of it. Let that be your nightly dwelling place. And then, like him, you will watch as people you have never met think of you, as doors you did not know existed swing open, as offers appear that match exactly what you quietly assumed. It is not the director of a foundation who holds your future. It is not the figure on a page. It is not the leather of your wallet. It is your consciousness. That is the only power. That is the only cause. Everything else is its obedient shadow. The bank executive learned this and stepped into a new life. You can learn it and step into a new relationship with your wallet. He assumed a position the world said he could not have. You can assume a fullness the world says you cannot claim. The law that moved for him stands ready to move for you, the instant you dare to use it. There is something far more subtle than the stories of racetracks and foundations, and yet it is the very root of both. It is not what you do with your hands. It is not the figures on the page. It is what you say to yourself in the silence no one else can hear. If I could follow you for a week, not with my eyes, but with my ear upon your inner speech, I could tell you exactly why your wallet looks the way it does. Not by what you earn, not by what you spend, by what you whisper. Tell me, what moves through your mind when you open your wallet and see little or nothing there? Do you sigh and think, it's always the same? Do you mutter inwardly, there's never enough, it goes as soon as it comes? When an account is presented, when a bill is placed in your hand, what is your first silent sentence? How am I going to pay this? Why is money always a problem? I can't stand this any longer. You may think you are merely describing a fact, but in truth you are creating it again. Your inner speech is not commentary. It is command. It is not idle chatter. It is prayer. The world you walk through is but the answered prayer of what you have been saying to yourself in the secret place of the heart. I recall a woman who came to me with a face lined, not by age, but by worry. Her eyes were bright enough, but behind them there was a constant calculation, a restless adding and subtracting. She told me, Neville, I have tried what you teach. I have imagined checks. I have visualized money. I have even felt, for a moment, that I had it. But somehow, I always end up back where I started. The wallet is light. The purse is thin. The bills keep coming. I am tired. I did not ask her about the pictures she had made once or twice in the quiet of the evening. I asked her about the words she used every hour. Would you stand at a shop and open your purse? What do you say to yourself? She answered at once, without needing to think, usually, I hope there is enough. Sometimes, I shouldn't be spending this. Often, well, there it goes again. When a bill arrives, I asked. She smiled sadly. Oh, that is always the same. You must be joking. I'll never get ahead like this. I don't know how I am going to manage. When you hear a friend speak of ease with money, I asked. Her eyes dropped. Then I say, good for them. That never happens to me. Do you see? She had, perhaps, 10 minutes each night of trying to imagine abundance and 16 waking hours of declaring lack. She prayed poverty far more devoutly than she ever prayed wealth. And the law, which is impersonal and infallible, answered the louder prayer. I told her plainly, my dear, you do not have a money problem. You have a conversation problem. You are speaking as the beggar and then wondering why the world insists on treating you as one. Change the speaker and the play will change. She protested, as so many do. But Neville, I cannot help what I see. When I open my wallet and there is barely anything there, how can I say, I am rich? It feels absurd. It feels like a lie. I said to her, you are lying already. When you open your wallet and say, there is never enough, you are lying about the deeper truth. The deeper truth is that your consciousness is wealth itself, that I am is the source of all supply. You prefer to call the shadow truth and the source a dream. I ask you to reverse it. Let the source be truth and the shadow the thing that must change. Then I gave her an assignment, which I now give to you. I said, for the next 30 days, you must watch your inner speech the way a guardian watches a gate. You must not let a single sentence about money pass through unexamined. Every time you open your wallet, you will hear yourself say something. If it is a sentence of lack, you will not allow it to stand. You will replace it at once. She asked, "What shall I say instead?" I answered, "Do not borrow my exact words. Clothe the principle in garments that feel natural to you. But let the essence be this. When you open your wallet, your inner voice must speak, as one who has not, as one who lacks. If you are tempted to say, 'There is never enough,' you will instead say, inwardly and quietly, 'My wallet is always provided for. There is always more than I need.' If a bill arrives and your first impulse is, 'I cannot afford this,' you will stop yourself and say, 'All my obligations are met with ease. The same God who brought me this account brings me the supply to pay it.' You will feel the tone of that sentence, not as wishful thinking, but as a calm fact spoken from the end. She frowned. "But that will not change the bill." I said, "No, it will change you, and you are what changes the bill. The bill is not the cause of your state. Your state is the cause of how bills arrive, in what quantity, with what ease they are dissolved. You have been bowing before the paper and letting it name you. From now on, you will name it." I told her further, "When you draw your wallet out in public, on the streetcar, at the grocer, at the cafe, use that moment as a little sacrament. Do not stare into it with dread. Do not pinch it closed as though the leather itself might betray you. As you touch it, say quietly within yourself, 'You are my faithful servant. You never fail me. You are always supplied.' Smile, not a forced grin, but a private acknowledgement that in consciousness you are already the one who is well kept. You might think this small. You may say, 'What difference can one sentence make?' But remember what I told you before. It is written, 'By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned.' It does not say, 'By thy occasional visualization,' but 'by thy words.' Those constant murmurings, those half-conscious phrases you repeat as you stand in line, cross the street, sit at your desk. I said to that woman, 'If you could hear how often you say, never, not enough, always short, you would not be surprised at your condition. That tongue of yours, the inner one, has fenced you into a small yard. Now you will let it build a larger place.'" She asked, "What about when fear grips me, when I see a figure on a page, and my stomach tightens before I have even had time to think a sentence?" I replied, "Then your work is to give the fear a new name. Instead of calling it dread, call it my cue to bless. The moment you feel that knot, let it remind you, this is my chance to speak differently. Take the paper, lay your hand over it if you must, and say inwardly, 'You are already paid. You are light. You are nothing to the abundance that I am.' You will feel ridiculous the first few times. You have worshipped these papers as gods. Now you are demoting them to their proper place, as servants." She did not find it easy at first. Old habits have deep grooves. The tongue, especially the silent one, runs along them without effort. At the grocer she would catch herself thinking, "I should not be buying this," and only halfway through would she remember and replace it with, "I am grateful I can choose what I desire and still be provided for." A bill would come, and her first inner cry would be, "Another one." But then she would stop and whisper inwardly, "Thank you, Father, that this too is already taken care of." Week by week, the old conversation lost its authority. She did not silence every negative thought, no one does, but she ceased to agree with them. She stopped letting them have the last word. The final sentence always belonged to abundance. Now what do you think happened? Did the paper on her table vanish in a puff of smoke? No, the outer world followed the inner change in wholly natural ways. She received a refund she had forgotten, was owed to her. A small debt she had long given up on was repaid. A neighbor offered to share a resource that reduced one of her monthly expenses. A relative, without being asked, chose to relieve her of an obligation she had been carrying. None of these, taken alone, seemed miraculous, but taken together, they rearranged her life. Most important, her wallet ceased to be an object of shame. She told me later, "I used to open it with that sinking feeling, as though it were about to accuse me. Now even when it is not overflowing, I feel toward it what I feel toward a friend. You've been good to me, and you will be again." The law did not suddenly begin to work for her at that moment. It had been working all along. It had faithfully answered her previous liturgy of lack, and now it faithfully answered her new liturgy of supply. The only thing that changed was the priest at the inner altar, the voice conducting the service. Now bring this home to yourself. When you take your wallet in your hand, tonight, tomorrow, in the days to come, do not hurry past that moment. Ask quietly, what am I about to say? You may not speak aloud, but you will speak within. If that inner phrase begins, this is not enough, or I am always short, or I can't keep up, stop it as you would stop a child about to step into the street. Replace it. Soften your belly. Breathe once, slowly, and say something like, there is a constant flow in and out of this wallet, and it always returns fuller than it left. Or, every time I open you, you surprise me with more. Or, I am the wealthy one, and you are just one of the ways my wealth shows itself. You need not shout. It is the quiet, consistent tone that matters. When the envelope comes with a demand inside, what the world calls a bill, do not slam it down and say inwardly, they are draining me. Lay your hand on it and say, you are already met. You are proof that life trusts me with responsibility, and life also trusts me with supply. As you arrive, so does your answer. Feel the difference in your body. One sentence tightens you, the other loosens you. One sentence makes you the victim, the other restores you as the source. You may say, but, Neville, if I change my sentences and nothing changes outside, will I not feel foolish? I answer, you have been speaking the sentences of poverty for years, and outside has rewarded you with more of the same. Did you stop for fear of looking foolish to yourself? If you are to be stubborn, at least be stubborn in the direction of freedom. Understand this. Your wallet, your bills, your coins and notes, these are the stage. The inner speech is the script. You cannot keep reciting tragedy and expect the play to become comedy. You cannot keep saying, this never works for me, and then wonder why it does not. The law is not moved by your occasional wish. It is moved by your constant word. When scripture says, pray without ceasing, it does not mean to fold your hands and kneel all day. It means that your inner speech is a continuous prayer. You do not stop praying. You are praying as you complain. You are praying as you worry. You are praying as you grumble over your wallet. And what you pray, in the feeling of it, is answered. So I ask you now, will you make a new prayer? Not once, as an experiment, but as a way of life. Will you, for the next 30 days, treat every encounter with your wallet and every encounter with a bill as a cue, not to dread, but to bless? Say within yourself, this wallet and I are one. It shows me what I have believed. As I change my belief, it changes its contents. You, little leather servant, are not my judge. You are my mirror. From now on, you reflect only what I choose. Say to the bill, you are not here to condemn me. You are here to invite me to know myself as supplied. Change that inner conversation consistently, and you cannot prevent the outer rearrangement. You may not be able to trace every thread, any more than that woman could explain why a forgotten credit returned, or a friend suddenly chose to be generous. But you will know the cause. You will know that when you stopped speaking to your world as a beggar, and began to speak as the wealthy one, the world had to answer in a different tone. Your wallet, my friend, is listening. Every time you open it, you are teaching it who you are. You have been saying, I am the one who never has enough. Now say, I am the one who is always provided for. Say it, not once with clenched teeth, but 100 times in the gentle rhythm of the days. Until your nerves believe it, until your body believes it, until your world has no choice but to believe it too. Change the dialogue, and you change the drama. Change the word, and you change the world. Beginning with that small world between your fingers, the living wallet that has been waiting all this time to hear you, finally speak as the creator you are. I want you now to do something that will seem almost childish to the rational mind, and yet it is one of the most powerful acts you can perform if you will do it in earnest. I want you to begin to treat your wallet as if it were alive. Not alive in the sense of having will of its own, for it has none. Alive in the sense that it is a sensitive instrument of your consciousness, a little creature made entirely of your assumptions about supply. It is made of leather, yes, but beneath the leather, it is made of belief. Tonight, when this talk is over, Do not throw your wallet on the table as a tired soldier throws his hat. Take it in your hands as a priest would take a sacred object. Look at it. Really look. See the creases, the wear, the way it has molded itself to you over the years. This thing has been with you, in shops, in offices, on journeys. It has witnessed every sentence you have ever spoken about money. It has been the little stage upon which you have played the same scene again and again, the scene of just enough or never enough, or I hope there is something there. Now I am going to ask you to give it a new role. As you hold it, say inwardly, if you like, whisper it softly with your lips. You are my servant. You are not my master. Feel that. Let the words sink past the leather into yourself. For in truth, you are not talking to the wallet. You are talking to your own consciousness about the wallet. You are telling your imagination, this no longer rules me. I rule this. Say to it, you obey my state. You have no life of your own. You show me what I have assumed, and from this day, you will show me only what I now assume. You see what you are doing. You are bringing home to yourself, in picture and word, that the outer symbol is nothing but the echo of an inner tone. You are rehearsing, like an actor before a mirror, a new way of playing the part. Imagine, if you will, a man who keeps a small dog. Each time the animal comes near, he flinches and mutters, you are wild, you will bite me, you are out of control. How long before that dog becomes nervous, jumpy, perhaps even snappish? He has trained it with his expectation. Now imagine another man who kneels, looks the same animal in the eyes, and says calmly, you are a good dog, you are gentle, you are safe, you stay by my side. Which one do you wish to be with your wallet? Your wallet has been the frightened animal in the corner, because you have looked at it with fear. You have sighed over it, you have scolded it, you have blamed it, you have opened it, and thought, you always fail me. Then you close it with a little mixture of shame and resentment. And in doing so, you have told your subconscious, I am the one whose wallet fails him. Let us reverse the pattern. The next time you open that wallet, and perhaps see only a few notes, do not hiss at it, as though it had betrayed you. Lay a finger upon those few notes and say, you are the seed, not the harvest. You multiply as you go. Say to the empty spaces, you do not frighten me. You are merely the room into which more will come. When you place money into it, do not cram it in carelessly, as though the wallet were a begrudging necessity. Place the notes with affection and say, you welcome increase. You stretch to receive. You are always filling, never failing. Teach your nervous system to feel that when money leaves, more comes. Use the wallet as a little theater in which you practice that feeling. I am not playing with words. I am showing you how to speak in symbols to the subconscious. The subconscious does not argue. It accepts impressions. It loves images, tones, simple phrases, repeated with feeling. When you take an object that is charged in your history with fear and tell a new story over it again and again, you are re-educating the deepest part of you. I once told a student to do exactly this. He laughed at me. He said, Neville, you expect me, a grown man, to talk to a piece of leather? I said, my dear, you have been letting that piece of leather talk to you for years. It has said, you are poor, you must worry, you never have enough, and you have believed every word. Now you will answer back. He agreed to humor me. Each morning he would take his wallet from the little tray by his bed, hold it for a moment and say, good morning, faithful servant. Today, you go out and you return multiplied. You always come back fuller than you left. Before, when he saw it plump, he would think, better enjoy this before it goes. Now, even if it was thin, he would stroke it with his thumb and say, you are learning. You grow week by week. I am pleased with you. At first he felt ridiculous, just as you will, but he persisted. Not because the leather needed to hear it, but because he needed to hear himself say it. Day after day, he spoke that way. After a time, he noticed something he had not expected. His body no longer tightened when he reached for his wallet. The little jolt of dread he had known for years when paying for anything began to dissolve. In its place came a quiet, almost casual assurance. Of course I can pay for this. Of course more will come. Then, and only then, did the outer changes begin. A client who had owed him money for months suddenly remembered and paid. Another client referred him to 3 more. His monthly income rose without strain, and he told me, Neville, the oddest thing is that I do not feel surprised. It feels like the most natural progression in the world. Do you see the order? First, he stopped letting the wallet define his state. Then he defined himself as the one whose wallet is always supplied. Then the wallet conformed. Your wallet must obey your state. This is not poetry, this is law. But most of you have allowed the state of the wallet to dictate your inner state. And so the circle goes on. The symbol shouts, I am empty. And you reply, then I am lacking. And because you reply so, the symbol stays empty. From now on, the movement runs the other way. You stand in the end. I am supplied. I am the wealthy one. I am the one whose needs are always met. And then you turn to the wallet and say, you will show this. You will display this truth. You will obey my name. I am. You may say it out loud when you are alone. When you are in public, you say it within. No one needs to know. The law hears you just the same. Some of you will be tempted to turn this into a little mechanical ritual. 3 sentences, murmured now and then, while the heart still clings to fear. That will do little. The power is not in the form of the words, but in the feeling you pour into them. When you say, you are my servant, feel what it means. Feel that you no longer stand small before it. Feel that you are the source from which its contents arise. When you say, you obey my state, do not merely repeat it. Feel for a moment. If I were deep, utterly convinced of my abundance, what would this object look like? How would it behave? How often would it be empty? How often would it surprise me? You might even play with it. Take your wallet in your hand, in a quiet hour, and imagine it as a personified little companion. See it standing before you, like a page before a king. Hear yourself say, with kindness, but with authority, you have carried the story of my fears long enough. You have shown me lack, because I believed in lack. From this moment you carry the story of my sufficiency. When you go out into the world with my notes and coins, you return with friends. When you rest in my pocket, you fill quietly. You are the sign of a constant flow, not of a dried up stream. As you do this, something very important happens in the hidden places of the soul. You cease to feel at the mercy of objects. You stop worshipping form. You begin to feel. Perhaps for the first time, I and my Father are one. I and my supply are one. I and my supply are one. I am the tree, and money is only the fruit. The wallet is only the basket in which the fruit is gathered. Imagine a farmer who stands in his orchard with an empty basket and sighs, I am ruined. Look at this basket. There is nothing in it. And suppose an older farmer comes along and says, my friend, you are looking at the wrong thing. The basket is not your wealth. The trees are your wealth. If the trees are sound, the basket will not stay empty. I am that older farmer to you tonight, and your trees are your assumptions. Your wallet is only the basket. When you talk to your wallet, therefore, you are really talking to your trees. You are saying, bear fruit after this kind. You are telling your imagination what sort of orchard to be. You are no longer permitting a temporary emptiness in the basket to persuade you that you are barren. So from this night, give the wallet a new identity. Not that miserable thin thing that never has enough, but the faithful servant who reflects my growing wealth. When it is full, bless it. You show me what I am. When it is thin, bless it just the same. You are only between harvests, and even now the fruit is swelling on the branch. Never curse it again. Never scold it again. Never scold it again. Never insult it again by calling it empty, useless, pathetic. If you speak that way, you are speaking that way about yourself, for it is you pushed out. I have told audiences for years, everyone is you pushed out. Tonight I add this, everything is you pushed out. The chair upon which you sit, the room in which you live, the clothes you wear, the little folded leather you call your wallet. Each one is a thought of yours made visible. If you begin to treat them as living witnesses of your state, you will be far more careful of the way you speak over them. So from this hour, speak to your wallet as you would speak to a faithful friend. Trust it. Expect it to be full. Thank it when it serves you. Command it when it seems to lag behind your new assumption. And beneath all this, remember always that you are not really re-educating the leather. You are re-educating the infinite creative power within you, which answers to the name I am. Say it once more with me in the silence of your own heart. As you picture that wallet in your hand, you are my servant. You obey my state, My state is abundance. Therefore, you are always supplied. Hold that feeling. Let it settle. And know that within this simple, almost playful act, you have set in motion a profound reordering of the symbols of your life. For when the master remembers, he is master, the servants quickly learn their place. I have spoken to you at length of law and principle, of imagination and feeling, of assumption and its inevitable harvest. Now I want to place into your hands simple, definite exercises so plain that even a child could follow them. If you will take these 5 and live with them, not as a curiosity for a night or two, but as a quiet discipline, you will not recognize your relationship with money or with your wallet a few months from now. Let us begin with the night, for the night is the workshop of creation. Each evening, before you surrender yourself to sleep, I want you to take your wallet into your hands. Do not do it carelessly. Do it as a priest lifting a chalice. Sit upon your bed or in your favorite chair, and for a few moments let the noise of the day settle. Then open the wallet slowly. Look at whatever is in it, much, little, or nothing at all. And this time, refuse to let what you see dictate how you feel. Instead, close your physical eyes and open the inner eye. In imagination, feel that this very wallet is heavy with notes, pleasantly thick, almost difficult to fold because of its fullness. Hear the soft rustle of many notes as you move them with your fingers. If you normally keep only a few in it, imagine that there is always more than you expect. You open it and are quietly pleased every time. Do not force wild excitement, rather cultivate a deep, calm satisfaction, the naturalness of one who is always well supplied. You might, in your mind's ear, hear yourself say, "Yes, this is right. This is how it is for me now." Or you may simply feel the relief that comes when a long-standing worry has at last been settled. Remain in that scene until drowsiness steals over you. Let your last waking impression be the feeling of a well-supplied wallet that belongs to a well-supplied man or woman. If you fall asleep holding the physical wallet while imagining it so, all the better, for then the image and the object are linked in the depths. Do this not for a night or two, but night after night, until the act itself becomes as natural as brushing your teeth. You are not hypnotizing the leather. You are educating the subconscious. You are saying, in the only language it understands, image and feeling, this is now our reality. Now the second practice, the total transformation of your inner conversation. I cannot overstate the importance of this. You speak to yourself all day long. From morning until night, there is a quiet voice commenting on everything. The prices you see, the bills that arrive, the state of your wallet. That murmur is your constant prayer. It is the ceaseless command you send into the depths, and the depths obey. So I ask you, very simply, what do you say when you open your wallet? What do you say when you think of money? When a payment is due? When something breaks and must be replaced? If you are honest, you will find phrases such as, "There is never enough, this is going to be difficult. I hope I can manage. I can't afford that. Money goes faster than it comes." You may never have said these words aloud, but they have been spoken inwardly with feeling, and therefore they have been heard where it counts. From this day, you will become the guardian at the gate of that inner speech. When you catch yourself muttering lack, you will not scold yourself. You will simply stop and replace. Suppose you open your wallet and the old voice starts up. Look at this, almost nothing, again. You stop it mid-sentence and gently, firmly introduce a new one. I am always supplied. My wallet is never truly empty. Money returns to me in ways I expect and in ways I do not. At first, this will feel strange, like writing with the left hand when you are right-handed. The old words will rush back. Do not be discouraged. This is precisely the work. You are carving a new channel in consciousness. Every time you choose the new sentence instead of the old, you deepen that channel. Soon, the water of thought will run there of its own accord. When a bill arrives, instead of sighing, "How will I pay this?" you say inwardly, "This too is easily met. I live in a state where every obligation is already provided for." Feel the difference in your body as you say it. Where there was tightening, feel a small loosening. When you desire something and see its price, instead of "that is too much for me," say, "If I truly want this, it is nothing to me. I am the one who has enough. Perhaps you cannot accept those words entirely at first. Persist anyway. The subconscious does not require your conscious agreement. It requires repetition with feeling. The third practice is gratitude, but not the gratitude of the beggar, thanking a reluctant giver for a rare coin. I speak of gratitude from abundance. There is a vast difference between saying, "Thank you, perhaps now I shall have a little relief," and "Thank you, this proves once more that I live in supply." One gratitude comes from fear, the other from knowing. From now on, every time money moves through your hands, whether 1 coin or 1,000, you pause inwardly and give thanks as the one who has. When you pay for something, instead of feeling smaller as the notes leave you, feel larger. Say within yourself, "How wonderful that I can circulate this. It returns to me increased. I could not pay it if I did not first have it. This is evidence of my abundance, not of my loss." When you receive, no matter how small the amount, do not despise it by thinking, "That is nothing." Bless it as if it were the herald of a great army. This, you say in your heart, is proof that supply moves towards me. I thank you, my own. I am for constant evidence of my wealth, and I would have you go deeper still. Each day, perhaps in the quiet of morning, take a moment to give thanks, not for any particular coin, but for the fact that consciousness itself is your treasure house. Be grateful that you are aware, that you can imagine, that you can feel. Say to yourself, "I thank you, Father, that you have given me yourself as imagination. I thank you that my own awareness is the source of all the good I shall ever know." This gratitude lifts you out of the small game of getting and into the high knowing of being. From there, you do not chase money, you let it follow. The fourth practice is the conscious conversation with your wallet, which we began in the last part of our talk, but now I will make it methodical. At least once a day, perhaps in the morning before you leave your home, take your wallet into your hands. Look at it and speak to it as you would to a faithful servant or a good friend. You may do this aloud if you are alone, or in the deep silence of your heart if others are present. But do it deliberately. Say to it, with calm authority, "You are my servant. You do not command me. You obey me. You are the visible symbol of my invisible state. From this day you reflect only abundance, only sufficiency, only increase. When you go out, you return multiplied. You never embarrass me. You always support me. You are the sign of my unbroken flow." As you speak, feel the truth behind the words. Feel, if only for a moment, what it would be like if this really were your relationship with your wallet. If you never again feared what you would find in it. During the day, whenever you touch it, when you put it into your pocket, take it from your bag, lay it upon a table. Let there be the faint echo of those phrases. "You are my servant. You obey my state. My state is abundance." You are not trying to charm the leather. You are training yourself to remain in the consciousness of mastery instead of servitude. The object becomes a little bell that rings, reminding you of who you are. If you find yourself tempted to open it anxiously as one checks a wound, stop for a second. Before you look, place your hand upon it and say inwardly, "Whatever I see, I remain the one who has. You are learning to display my new state." Then open it, not as a fearful child, but as an adult who knows that this visible content is only a temporary picture of a state already changing within. When it pleases you, say, "Thank you, you show me well." When it does not, say, "You are catching up, you will look like my inner wealth very soon." Finally, the fifth practice, 1 day in 7, lived entirely from wealth. Choose a day, any day that suits your life, and declare it to be your Sabbath of abundance. On that day, you will walk, speak, think, and feel as the one who already lives in the state you desire. Regardless of what the world of sense says, you will not spend recklessly or foolishly. That would be working from effect instead of cause. Rather, you will inwardly take up the posture of the wealthy one. On that day, when you wake, you will lie for a few extra moments in bed and feel how a financially secure man or woman rises to meet the day. Notice the absence of the familiar anxious thoughts. Feel the lightness in the chest, the ease in the breath. Then rise with that feeling and carry it into every action. When you dress, imagine you dress in the quiet dignity of one who can afford what he likes. When you eat, imagine you do so without calculating the cost, simply grateful and at ease. Throughout this day, every time money is mentioned or required, watch yourself. Ask, how would I respond to this if my wallet and accounts were exactly as I wish them to be? Then respond from that place. Perhaps the old impulse would be to say, no, I cannot, I must be careful. On this day you might simply say, not today, without fear or self-pity. Perhaps the old impulse would be to brood over a future expense. On this day you say inwardly, by the time that is due, the means is present. I live in a state where things are provided when needed. Do not make this heavy or theatrical. Let it be quiet, almost secret. No one need know that you are keeping a holy day in consciousness, but be faithful. If for a moment you fall back into the old worries, gently bring yourself home. No, today I move as the one who has. Today, my wallet is the servant of a wealthy mind. At first, you may only manage a few minutes here and there. Later, you will notice entire hours go by in which you have been, without effort, in that state. One day, you will reach the end of your chosen Sabbath and realize that you have felt abundant from morning to night, and that it was not struggle but ease. When that happens, know that something has shifted deep within you. The state which you once had to put on like a garment is becoming your very skin. These 5 exercises are simple. None of them requires money. None of them requires another person. All of them require only this, that you value your inner world more than the outer picture, and that you are willing to be consistent. If you will take your wallet into your hands each night and imagine it full, if you will catch and change the inner sentences you speak over money, if you will cultivate gratitude as one who has, not as one who begs, if you will talk to your wallet as to a faithful servant that reflects your new identity, and if you will live one day each week wholly from the end, then you will have done more for your wealth than all the anxious calculations of a lifetime. I say to you, test me. Test this law. Take these practices, not as pleasant ideas, but as a program, and keep to it with cheerful stubbornness. The world will smile and tell you that a man cannot change his circumstances by talking to himself or to his wallet. Let them smile. They do not know that they too are doing it all day long. Only they do it in favor of lack. You now know better. You know that your wallet is not a tyrant, but a mirror. You know that consciousness alone is the reality, and that what you are in consciousness, your little leather servant, must show. Fill the reality with wealth, and the symbol will in time overflow. There comes a moment on this path when a man or woman says quietly, sometimes with frustration, Neville, I have tried what you said, and nothing seems to have happened. I welcome that moment, for it is honest, and honesty is always closer to the door than blind hope. So let us speak plainly now, with no mysticism to hide behind. When the law appears not to work, it is never because the law failed. It is always because the state was never truly assumed. There is a vast difference, though outwardly they may sound alike, between assuming a thing and merely desiring it. Desire still places the good in the future. Desire says, I want this, I do not yet have it. No matter how beautifully dressed, that sentence still bows before absence. Assumption says, it is so, and the subconscious only moves on what is so. Many people repeat words of wealth while feeling the ache of waiting underneath. They say, I am rich, but inside they are listening for proof. They are not dwelling in the end. They are standing on the road toward it. And because consciousness only reflects where you dwell, not where you hope to go, the reflection remains unchanged. You must understand this with clarity. Wishing does not create. Hoping does not create. Longing does not create. Only being creates. If you say, I am wealthy, but inside you are asking, when will this finally happen? You have not assumed wealth. You have assumed waiting. And life, obedient as a loyal servant, says, very well, you shall continue to wait. Another reason it seems not to work is that the state is not maintained. A man may tonight imagine his wallet full with sweetness and calm, and tomorrow at noon curse it with bitterness and fear. He plants in the evening and digs up the seed in the morning. Then he wonders why nothing grew. States are like garments. You must wear them long enough for the body to warm them. If you put on a coat for a moment and then throw it off at the first chill, you never gain its benefit. So it is with the wealthy state. You must return to it again and again, gently, stubbornly, without dramatics. The world will tempt you to abandon it. A bill will arrive. A number will appear that feels heavy. A memory will rise and say, "You tried this before, and nothing happened." The moment you bow inwardly to that suggestion and say, "Perhaps this is foolish, perhaps it will not work for me," you have slipped back into the old garment. The law does not punish you for this, it simply mirrors your current position. If now you are standing in doubt, it mirrors doubt. When you stand again in certainty, it mirrors certainty. The mirror never argues. Another great reason many fail is that they contradict themselves emotionally. They speak of abundance with the lips and speak of danger with the nerves. Their mouth says, "I am provided for," while their body trembles as though a beast were at the door. The subconscious listens to the stronger language, and that is always feeling. You cannot deceive the deeper self with words alone. If you say, "I am safe," but your stomach is clenched in terror, the body is testifying that you do not yet feel safe, and the body always speaks the truth of your state. This does not make you guilty, it makes you informed. So when you notice that your words and your feeling do not agree, do not scold yourself. Simply bring the feeling along. Instead of forcing yourself to shout statements of wealth while fear vibrates in your chest, soothe the fear first. Breathe. Slow the body, then introduce a gentler sentence. "I am learning to feel safe with money. I am entering the state of security." Let the state grow instead of trying to leap into it violently. There is also another subtle hindrance, the absence of naturalness. The true sign that a state has been assumed is that it feels normal, not thrilling, not unreal, normal. A man who truly feels wealthy does not walk about in constant excitement. He does not gasp every time he pays for something. He moves with quiet assurance. When a student imagines wealth and feels a rush like a gambler about to throw the dice, that is not the wealthy state. That is the state of anxious anticipation. And that state manifests uncertainty, not security. If your imaginal acts leave you restless, wired, overstimulated, you have probably touched desire, not possession. The test is simple. After your imagining, do you feel calmer than before? Do you feel steadier? Do you feel more at ease with life? If the answer is yes, then you have touched the end. If the answer is no, you are still circling it. The natural state is always quiet. Creation does not shout. The oak does not crack the sky as it grows. It simply grows. There is also the habit of measuring. This habit ruins more demonstrations than any other. A man imagines wealth at night and audits the universe at breakfast. He checks his wallet as though it were a thermometer and says, "Still the same." And in that moment, he has shifted back into the state of not yet. You must learn to ignore appearances with dignity. This does not mean to deny what your eyes see. It means to refuse to let what your eyes see define what you are. If a man knows that a letter is in the post addressed to him, he does not weep because it has not yet arrived this morning. He knows it is on the way. He acts accordingly. So must you behave toward your assumption, not with strain, not with blind denial, but with inner knowing. Another reason it seems not to work is impatience masquerading as faith. Impatience says, "I believe, but hurry." Faith says, "It is done," and rests. When you are impatient, you are secretly confessing that you are not convinced. I once said, and I repeat it now, the interval of time between assumption and fulfillment is not yours to measure. It is part of the bridge of incidents. Your only task is to remain faithful to the end. The moment you relax your hold because time has stretched, you loosen the state. Perhaps one of the most painful hindrances is self-unworthiness. Many secretly feel, "This teaching may work for others, but not for me. I have failed too much. I have made too many mistakes." And so even while they imagine money, they deny themselves the identity of the one to whom it naturally belongs. But I ask you, who told you that you must deserve consciousness? Who told you that you must earn your right to imagine? The sun does not inquire into your past before it shines on you. Imagination does not inquire into your history before it creates. If you can say, "I am," then you can say, "I am wealthy." No further qualification is needed. Your past does not sit on the throne of your creative power. Only your present state does. And finally, there is one more reason things seem not to work. You try to use the law while secretly believing that the outer world is the real power. You imagine at night and then live by the newspaper in the morning. You cling inwardly to banks, employers, markets, and conditions as though they were the source. That division weakens your assumption. The law asks one thing of you: loyalty. Loyalty to the inner state above the outer fact. Not fanaticism, not denial of sanity, but quiet loyalty. You must decide where reality sits for you. If it sits in the figures, the statements, the visible conditions, then imagination will always be a hobby. But if reality sits in consciousness, then imagination becomes the architect. So when you feel discouraged and say, perhaps it does not work, pause and ask yourself gently, am I really assuming or only wishing? Am I maintaining the state or visiting it briefly and fleeing at the first contradiction? Am I speaking wealth while feeling fear? Am I mistaking excitement for naturalness? Am I measuring instead of resting? Am I secretly believing that something outside of me is the true source? These are not questions of blame. They are questions of clarity. For the moment, you see clearly where you have been standing. You can quietly step back into the end. And the instant you step back into the end, the law resumes its quiet work without complaint and without delay. You have not failed when nothing seems to happen. You have only been shown more accurately where you truly are. And that is a gift, because now you can choose again. And you will. You have walked a long way with me now. Not in miles, but in awareness. And if you have truly listened, not only with the ears, but with the quiet attention of the heart, then something in you already knows that you will never again look at yourself, at money, or at your world in quite the same way. For now you know the secret that has always been hidden in plain sight. You are I am, not a body hoping for provision, not a wallet waiting to be filled, not a name written on paper asking permission from fate. You are the very awareness that decides what shall be. When I say you are I am, I do not flatter you. I tell you the most exact fact of your being. Before you were poor or rich, anxious or secure, successful or uncertain, before all labels, there was simply the sense of being, that quiet I am, and that is God in you, not above you, not judging you, not withholding from you, creating as you assume. And now that you know this, responsibility has quietly passed into your hands. Not the heavy responsibility of fear, but the sacred responsibility of authorship. You are no longer merely a character reacting to circumstances. You are the one who writes the scene. Your wallet is listening. It has always listened. Every sigh, every complaint, every fearful glance, every sentence of defeat, you whispered them into it like spells. And it obeyed you faithfully. It showed you exactly what you believed about yourself. It never betrayed you. It mirrored you. And now it listens still, but to a different voice. It listens not for your worry, but for your authority. It listens not for your dread, but for your decree. It listens for the quiet certainty that says, I am the one who has. Your world is responding. Not tomorrow in some vague dream. Not only in moments of rare coincidence, but now in the hidden order of events you cannot yet see. For every assumption you have accepted tonight is already moving through people you do not know, through decisions you did not make consciously, through rearrangements that feel ordinary when they arrive, but are in truth the handwriting of your own imagination made visible. You will call them chance. Others will call them luck, but you will know what they truly are: obedience. The universe does not debate with your I am. It does not argue. It does not delay out of cruelty. It simply conforms. And money, so feared, so chaste, so misunderstood, will reveal its true face to you now, not as master, not as judge, but as the first simple mirror that shows you how faithfully life reflects your state. But hear me with solemn clarity now. Money is only the beginning. It is the first mirror because it is the quickest to change. It is fluid. It moves easily. It answers with speed. That is why it was chosen as your first proof. But after money, other mirrors will follow. Your relationships will shift. Your health will soften. Your opportunities will widen. Your confidence will deepen without effort. Because once a man knows that his world is himself pushed out, he can never again feel truly small. He may forget for a moment, he may stumble, but he can never again be truly lost. Tonight, something has been entrusted to you, not by me, by your own willingness to listen. You have been told, perhaps for the first time in a way your soul could hear, that you are not at the mercy of the world you see. You are the cause of it, and that knowledge is both a crown and a cross. A crown, because it gives you dominion. A cross, because you can no longer blame shadows for the shape of the light. But I do not leave you with burden. I leave you with a promise. If you will keep faith with your own imagination, if you will honor your inner speech, if you will return again and again to the end as though it were home, if you will speak to your wallet, your world, and yourself as the one who already is, then I promise you, not as a preacher, not as a mystic lost in clouds, but as a man who has tested this law for decades in the laboratory of his own life, you will see things soften where once they were rigid. You will see doors open where once there were walls. You will see supply appear where once there was strain. And you will know, not by belief, but by experience, that imagination creates reality. And when that knowing becomes natural, when it no longer thrills you, but steadies you, then you will have passed the true threshold. You will have crossed from faith into understanding. The law will give you things. The promise will give you yourself. The law will fill your wallet. The promise will awaken the God who never needed a wallet at all. So now, as we part in this moment, not in distance, but in silence, I speak over you a final blessing, not as poetry, but as decree. May you never again doubt the power that speaks when you say I. May your inner word become clean, fearless, and sovereign. May your wallet learn quickly the new tone of your voice. May your world rearrange itself gently, but unmistakably, in obedience to your state. May this night be counted to you for righteousness, not because you were perfect, but because you dared to assume. And when you touch your wallet again, tonight, tomorrow, or years from now, may you smile quietly and remember, it was never leather, it was never paper, it was always you. You are I am. Your wallet is listening, your world is responding, and it is done.